The silver necklace caught the morning light like captured stars, each turquoise stone glowing against the Apache woman's golden skin. But it was the sight of that particular piece of jewelry that made Rancher Cole Brennan's world tilt on its axis. His coffee cup freezing halfway to his lips as memories he'd buried 20 years ago came flooding back. "That necklace was my mother's," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The Apache Queen Aiyana stood in the doorway of his ranch house with the grace of someone who had never bowed to anyone. Her dark eyes met his with the kind of steady confidence that came from leading her people through countless hardships. Behind her, several Apache warriors waited in respectful silence, their feathered headdresses stirring gently in the desert breeze. "Your mother," she repeated, her English clear and measured. There was no mockery in her tone, but no deference either. "Tell me about this mother of yours, Cole Brennan." The way she said his name made it sound like she had known it long before this moment. Cole set down his cup with trembling hands, studying the intricate silverwork that adorned her throat. The necklace was unmistakable, 3 rows of perfectly matched turquoise stones, separated by delicate silver feathers that seemed to dance with her every breath. He had watched his mother polish those stones countless times, had seen her wear it to every important occasion until the day she disappeared. "My mother was Alina Brennan," Cole said slowly, rising from his chair on the covered porch. "She went missing during an Apache raid 23 years ago. I was only 15 then, working the cattle with my father when we heard the gunshots. By the time we got back to the ranch house, double quotes, he paused, the memory still sharp as broken glass. She was gone. That necklace was all she had left of her own mother. It came from Mexico, crafted by her grandmother's hands." Aiyana's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. She stepped closer, her moccasins silent on the wooden boards. "And you believe we took it from her?" It wasn't a question. Cole found himself looking into eyes that held depths he couldn't fathom, eyes that had seen violence and loss, but also wisdom beyond her years. She couldn't have been more than 30, yet she carried herself with the authority of someone who had been making life and death decisions for her people since she was barely grown. "I don't know what to believe anymore," Cole admitted. The honesty surprised him. For 23 years, he had carried hatred for the Apache, had built his life around the assumption that they had killed his mother and stolen her precious necklace. But standing face to face with Aiyana, seeing the way she wore the jewelry not as a trophy but as something sacred, his certainty began to crumble. The Apache Queen studied his face for a long moment. Around them, the high desert stretched endlessly, painted in shades of gold and red by the climbing sun. A hawk circled overhead, its cry echoing across the silence that had settled between them. "Come," she said finally. "Walk with me, Cole Brennan. There are things you need to hear." They moved away from the ranch house, past the corrals where his horses stood watching with curious eyes. Aiyana's warriors followed at a respectful distance, their presence protective rather than threatening. Cole found himself walking beside a woman who commanded respect without demanding it, whose very stillness spoke of inner strength. "Your mother," Aiyana began, her voice soft as desert wind, "was named Elena Maria Santos before she married your father." Cole stopped walking. "How do you?" She spoke often of her son. Aiyana continued, not breaking stride. "A boy with his father's stubborn jaw and her own gentle heart. She worried about you constantly, especially during the harsh winters. The world seemed to spin around Cole. She was alive. She lived among my people for 7 years." Aiyana's voice carried no judgment, only facts delivered with careful precision. "She came to us not as a captive, but as a refugee. Your mother fled to our camp with 3 bullet wounds in her back. Cole Brennan. She was running from something, or someone, who wanted her dead." Cole felt his knees threaten to buckle. He reached out blindly and found support against a fence post, his mind reeling. "That's impossible. She was taken in a raid." "There was no raid that day," Aiyana said gently. "Our warriors were hunting deer 20 miles north of your ranch. Your mother appeared at our camp border near death, clutching this necklace and begging for sanctuary. She spoke my grandmother's name, Paloma, like a prayer." "Paloma," Cole whispered. The name hit him like a physical blow. "My mother's grandmother was named Paloma Santos. She used to tell me stories about her, how she was raised partly by Apache families in the old days, before the territories were divided." Aiyana nodded slowly. "Paloma was my grandmother's closest friend. They were like sisters, sharing medicines and stories across the cultural divide. When your mother came to us, she carried Paloma's blessing and wore Paloma's necklace. My grandmother recognized both immediately. They had walked to the edge of Cole's property, where the desert began in earnest. Here, ancient saguaro cacti stood like silent sentinels, their arms raised to the endless sky. The beauty of the landscape struck Cole as it hadn't in years. He had been too consumed with anger and loss to truly see it. Why didn't she come back? The question tore from his throat like a physical pain. Why didn't she try to contact me? She did try. Aiyana's voice was infinitely gentle now. Many times, but the men who shot her were watching, waiting. Your mother learned that they had spread the story of the Apache raid to cover their crime. She discovered that if she returned, it would not only cost her life, but yours as well. Cole's hands clenched into fists. What men who would want to hurt her? Men who wanted your ranch? Men who knew your father was sick and that your mother's name was on the deed? Men who thought that without her, a grieving widower and his young son would be easier to persuade to sell? The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Cole remembered his father's mysterious illness, how quickly he had declined after his wife's disappearance. He remembered the constant offers to buy the ranch, the pressure from men in expensive suits who claimed to represent investors from back east. His father had refused every offer, had died still clutching the deed. But by then Cole had been old enough and angry enough to fight for what was his. She stayed away to protect you, Aiyana continued, even when it broke her heart, even when she grew old watching the horizon, hoping for just a glimpse of the sun. She sacrificed everything to keep safe. Grew old, Cole repeated numbly. Past tense. She passed 3 winters ago, Aiyana said softly, peacefully, in her sleep. She asked me to wear her grandmother's necklace to remember the friendship between our peoples. She also asked me to tell you the truth, should our paths ever cross. Cole sank to his knees in the desert sand. 23 years of grief and anger pouring out of him at once. He had hated the wrong people, blamed them for crimes they never committed. His mother had died knowing he believed the worst of her memory, thinking she had abandoned him when she had actually saved him. She left something for you, Aiyana said quietly. From within her buckskin dress, she withdrew a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. She wrote this the day before she died. She said if I ever met a stubborn rancher with kind eyes and his father's jaw, I would know who it was meant for. Cole took the letter with shaking hands. His mother's careful handwriting swam before his eyes as he read words of love, explanation, and forgiveness. She had watched him from afar when she could, had heard stories of his successes and struggles through the informal network that connected all desert peoples. She had been proud of the man he had become. Proud that he had kept the ranch and made it prosper. At the bottom of the letter, in his mother's familiar script, were the words that would stay with him forever. The necklace belongs to Aiyana now, me, but the love it represents belongs to you, always. When Cole looked up, tears streaming down his weathered face, he found Aiyana watching him with eyes full of compassion. Without hesitation, she lifted the silver necklace over her head and held it out to him. No, Cole said, his voice hoarse but certain. My mother was right. It belongs to you now. You cared for her when I couldn't. You gave her a family when she had to leave her own. This necklace represents the bridge between our peoples, just like my mother hoped it would. Aiyana studied him for a long moment, then placed the necklace back around her throat. Then let it continue to be that bridge. Cole Brennan, let it remind us both that understanding can grow from the ashes of hatred, and that love finds a way to endure even the greatest separation. As they walked back toward the ranch house together, Cole felt something shift inside his chest. The anger that had fueled him for over 2 decades was gone, replaced by something warmer and more complex. His mother had found peace among these people, had been loved and protected by them. Perhaps it was time for him to build on that foundation rather than tear it down. The Apache Queen walked beside him like an equal, her presence both commanding and comforting, and around her throat, Alina Brennan's necklace caught the desert light like a promise of better days ahead, a symbol of the love that transcends cultural boundaries and the understanding that can bloom even in the harshest landscape. In the distance, the hawks continued their eternal dance across the endless sky.